Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Unravel Your Mind. We're here to transform relationships to love and to life. And I'm so glad you're here. There's so many questions to cover, but if you're watching me live, please go into the comments and ask your question, and I'll be sure to put it into queue amongst the many other questions we have today. There's a lot of good ones, and I think part of it is that we've just come off Valentine's Day. So there's a lot of relationship questions, which of course I love, romantic love relationships. But I'm here to help you get through any of your life's dilemmas and the devils that come in and cause some chaos in your life. And we're going to get through them. So please submit your questions. If you're watching on replay, do the same thing. You can write it in there. If you want it more private, you can go to my Instagram at QueenBlissB, private message me, or you can go to Facebook at Beth Bell Live and ask me your question there. All right, let's jump in and get started with question number 1. I have a long to-do list, but also need some self-care. What are your thoughts on how to prioritize myself while staying out of the anxiety of what needs to get done? Okay, I'm going to answer it from 2 different perspectives. One perspective is like right now, right? So right now, the best thing you can do, and I have a feeling you already know this, is breathe. Breathe deeply. In fact, very specifically, what I would recommend is that you do this breathing technique where you're sitting with yourself really grounded, like really focus on your sit bones, wherever you are, in a chair, on the floor, ground yourself, and then do this breathing where you're going from one nostril, where you're breathing in, and then you're flipping here and breathing out. Don't release. After you've exhaled, breathe in, switch out. Why? Because it can help our whole system calm down and get really grounded and really present exactly where we are. Then I would just ask, yourself, myself, what is my number 1 priority right now? And write it down, whether it's in your journal, a piece of paper, whatever works for you, preferably in a notebook that you use for work purposes or for your to-do list kind of stuff. And write down what that number 1 thing is. Then focus on that number 1 thing. I mean, you can continue to write down the other ones, but only focus on the one thing, because it feels like you're a multitasker. I am too. And I get a lot of energy by having a lot of different projects all going on at the same time. But what I find is that I have to really have intention behind the one priority. How am I going to feel at the end of today when I get that one priority done? And then I go, I want that feeling, and I want that feeling now. I'm going to feel that feeling instead of the anxiety, right? So if it's a feeling of accomplishment, like, oh gosh, I know what a great feeling that is at the end of the day when I feel like, yeah, I really, really got stuff done. I didn't let everything else in the world spin me. I also go to a separate desk to do certain tasks. So find spaces in your house, because you may get 3 things done today, right? So I'm not saying that you would only get the one thing done, but definitely prioritize and then focus on that one thing. And then when you get to number 2, I'd recommend you find another space for it, right? So I go to a very particular desk to write and to do creative things and to download and to journal and remote write. So it's a different space, because then I'm not tempted by all the, the electronic clutter of my desk, all the tabs that I have open and all the books that I have and all the papers that are here that all need my attention. I don't sit here for that. So find the place, and maybe this is an ongoing thing, so you don't have to think about it so much, that you just have different spaces for different things that you want to accomplish, and then just stay really focused on that one thing. Now, that was the first part that I was going to say about the question. The second part is prioritizing your week, right? Because I know that stuff comes up, and right now one of my focuses is on play, and I think it should be for most of us that are very type A and like have a lot of things that we want to get done. But I would really structure your day a little bit more. You're still going with the flow, but you structure your day in a way that, again, what your intention is what you want to get done as a priority, but also how you want to feel at the end of the day. How do you want to feel at the end of the week? What are the top 3 things that you need to get done? Now, I know with corporate lives and all this, there's like everybody else has different agendas. But I guarantee that if you stick to those 3 things for you personally, you'll feel better at the end of the week, even when the curveballs come and they kind of, take you from underneath your feet, because you're always going to know which thing to go back to, not the thing that's squeaking the loudest. And that's always the challenge, isn't it? The things that we think are going to cause us the most pain, grab our attention. Oh, I'll go do that. Oh, I'll go do that, right? We know the whole concept of sort of squirrel. And so if you're really focused on what this week is going to have and hold for you and how you're going to feel at the end of it, and then just bring that feeling into the beginning, you're going to see that anxiety subsides, because there's nothing to be anxious about, because you're in the moment right now doing exactly what you feel is your priority to do. And you've already told yourself, no, I'm already feeling accomplished. And as you do the work, you go, another step closer to putting that priority off the list and going to the next one. So hopefully that's helpful. I'd love to hear in the comments if you have anything that comes up for you, or if it wasn't your question and you have a thought, maybe you have an extra tip. I'm always happy for all of us to share. So please put it in the comments below. All right, let's go on to question number 2. I feel like my heart is blocked from love. I've been single for more years than I want to say, and seem to quickly sabotage any potential relationship that crosses my path. Honestly, I don't even know where to begin. What should I do? Well, yeah, it sounds like you definitely have a blocked heart. And when we have a blocked heart, it's typically blocked from one of 2 major things, but there's lots of things that can cause a blocked heart. A lot of times it's our romantic relationships that have inflicted pain, made us feel like a victim, made us feel like somebody did something to us that didn't feel good. And that becomes hardening to our heart if it happens, especially multiple times, or if we don't get to the root of the first one. So that first heartbreak that we experience, oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes happens in junior high, right? It happens early. And then there's another whole segment I'm going to talk about in a second, but it happens when we're young, and it's that first time we experience love outside of ourselves. I talk about this on many questions, many shows, because it's so important that we really get to the root of what that heartbreak was that made us close our heart and say, I'm not going to experience that again. I'm not going to let anybody get that close to me, because I don't want to have that feeling. Okay, so you want to get to what that is. And that takes some work, and it takes a little bit of time. It's not always overnight. There's lots of tips, tools, techniques, modalities you can use to get to the core of the matter. I can't go through them all today on the call, but I can tell you that if you go to bethbell.me, I've got an Awakening and Healing Handbook. It's jam-packed with all of these modalities, all of which I talked about in Angels, Herpes, and Psychedelics. So in my book, I go through a lot of the techniques that I've used to help me overcome blocked hearts, healing hearts, broken hearts. And that will really be helpful for you to take a real tune in to like, well, what resonates for me of all these tips, tools, techniques, and modalities? Without you on the line with me live, it's a little bit more challenging for me to say exactly which one might be right for you. And I always like to say that it's about what resonates for you, because you may say to me, Beth, you know what? Family constellation stuff, I don't know what you're talking about. And it just sounds weird, right? I thought that actually in the beginning when people were talking about doing this family constellation work, I was like, I don't even know what that is. And I like my family, I actually have a really good family. I don't think I have any wounds from there. So I'm going to segue from that into the second part of one of the big major reasons why our hearts can be blocked or closed. And that is childhood. I know. Inner child work. A lot of people just are really resistant to this idea. And I think it's because that's where a lot of the pain resides. Why? Because that is where we learned what love is and how we experience it and how we get it. But the reality is that we actually don't get it. We have it, we are it, and we share it with others. It being love, we share it. But when we grow up in a household with parents that are probably struggling with their own childhood wounds, love becomes very conditional. And we start to feel like I have to do something in order to get love from one of my parents. And so this condition, these programs come in early on. You don't even have a clue that they're happening because all you know is the love that you're experiencing from the people that raise you. So if you didn't have a mom and a dad, whoever was your confidants, the people that took you in, those are the people that programmed you with the ideas of what they thought love is and how it should be expressed. And in most cases, people do their darn best, but if they haven't done that work, and they're not living with a whole heart and an enlightened sense, which most people aren't, honestly. Most people are just struggling through trying to figure out their own heart, and they don't necessarily mean to do these things to their children, but it's the programs that they were also instilled with. And so they're navigating life, and there's a soul contract between a child and a parent. And honestly, I feel children, we always think, oh, we're here to teach the children, we're here to raise the children. And while there's an element to that that's certainly true, they're here to teach us a whole lot more because they come in with that pureness and that innocence. And then we teach them all the things that are so far from that, unknowingly and a lot of times unintentionally. So I would recommend that you go back and really look at, is this a broken heart that is now closed and blocked because something that happened in my childhood? And look, that can take some time. And it can also be something that is so subconscious because you were a child and you don't remember it, but it's a feeling that still resides. So that's why I'm saying I think it's really helpful if you go to the Awakening and Healing Handbook on bethbell.me, because you'll get a lot of different modalities that you can tap into that you can say, yeah, that feels right for me to get back to that in my life. And if it's a romantic relationship, it's that first love, and you see the pattern, right? That's something you want to really get into. So I have a five step process that you can go through to help heal your heart back to wholeness, wherever you're at, whether you're in the blocked heart, the broken heart, the healing heart, or the whole heart. It helps you to really just realize, how can I move through this in a way that gets me to the other side? All right. I think that's it for this question. I'm always happy to hear your comments. If you have more questions, please put it in the comments. Let's move on to the next question. All right. I feel pressure from my boyfriend to move in together and make a life plan to be together. Yet I just want to date him. I love him and care deeply, but I'm not ready for forever. How can we make it work? Or no, sorry, how can we work it out? Well, I think there's a lot of things here. I don't know some of the other aspects about your, like how long you've been dating and maybe how old you are and what life stage you're in and all that stuff. But if you want to date, then you have to be really clear. I want to date, and that's it. Then I don't think that you call yourself exclusive. You don't call yourself partners. You don't go into any of that. It's all the word rhetoric comes to mind. I don't even know why. It's all ideations that are in like the social thought construct of what relationships should be. And so people come in with a lens of like, what does this relationship mean to me? Is it now? Is it future? And if you're just wanting to date, you need to just date, but you have to be really clear with the person that you want to just date. And that means not just words, but actions. What you do, what you say, it all has to be swirled together with the same intention of dating. Right? So when they want to go do something that is more like you're dating, but you don't want them to do it, whatever that might be, I don't know, go out with another person, date another person, then you got to let them go and do that, because you've said, I want to date you. I don't want to be committed to you. I don't want to build a future with you. I don't know that I want to build a future with you. You may or may, right? Because otherwise you would know and you'd say, no, let's move this into more serious territory. just be really clear on your intentions so that that person is 100% knowing what you want with your words and your actions. If those are not aligned, then honestly, you're playing games. That's 9 times out of 10, that's the situation, is you're playing games. And if you're playing games and you don't know it, I get it, but you've got to get to it. You can't just keep somebody on the line. So get to it. And maybe that means you take a break. Maybe you take a break and you figure yourself out first and then come back, because there's something there. Trust yourself. Trust that there is something there that's telling you, hey, I'm not ready to commit for forever with this person. There's something there. So dig into that. Have fun with it, though. That's the most important part, is have fun with it. Don't take all of this so seriously. And if the other person can't handle all of that, then yes, definitely take a break. All right. If you have more questions about that, please put it in the comments. I'm happy to elaborate a little bit more. All right, we'll go on to the next question. I see you talk a lot about angels. I grew up Christian and believe in them, but I am not sure I totally get the concept of how they help us. Can I do something to be more in touch with them? Yeah, I love angels. I too grew up Christian, and I had this concept of, from a religious standpoint, what angels were, but I also didn't understand what they were until I started doing the deeper work of awakening. And a couple of examples come to mind to share that I think can be relevant for everyone listening. One example was when I talk about this in my book, Angels, Herpes, and Psychedelics. On the back, it says, "The awakening kiss at 30,000 feet changed my life." I look at that person, that like legitimate, like physical person, as an angel in my life, because they actually gave me a transmission that spurred me to awaken my soul from within. In the end, it wasn't about that person. It was about that person giving me an awakening moment to go, wait a second, I think I'm lying to myself. Not intentionally, of course, but I had to come to a really deep place in my heart that at the time I was married, and I had really strict ideas about marriage and cheating and kissing and even thinking about someone else. So that person came in as what I like to call an earth angel, and someone that was in my life that I'm sure on a soul contract level agreed to play a certain role with me to help me to move my progression and my awakening journey forward quickly, catapulted me. So you may have an angel like that as well. It can be a friend. It can be somebody that you met and you're just like, oh, they just get me. They just like so get me. And I just feel so grateful for them. And yet I don't even know them, right? It can be those types of earth angels that come in. And sometimes they come in, it's like, I don't know, I hear this a lot about people in airports, right? That they end up meeting someone in an airport. They're at kind of like this vulnerable moment because like a flight got canceled or something's happening, and they just start talking to this person, and they just kind of like, figuratively fall in love with this person because they feel so comfortable with them. Well, that's an earth angel, and you may never see them again. And oftentimes stuff like that happens. So, I like to say we brush our angel wings with others a lot, and just being grateful for those little reminders about just how humanity can just be kind and loving to each other for no reason at all, just because we can, right? Kindness is free. It doesn't cost us anything. And it means so much to so many. So that's what I would say when it comes to angels that are earth angels now, or terrestrial. The other angels that I love to talk about are the celestial angels. And I have a feeling this was probably a little bit more where your question was oriented, is like these angels in the sky. Like, where do they come from and who are they and what do they do and how can we have them help us, right? And those are angels that we believe in. And there's a lot of different words I'm going to use, whatever resonates for you. Entities, spirits, guides, spirit guides, right? They're an essence, they're an energy, they're a feeling, they're an imagination, they're part of our imagination. At the end, like the big concept of consciousness is that we're all one, right? The ultimate reality of oneness is where we're going on our awakening journey. But between here, where we are right here in our hearts, and there, and I say there being up, but it's multidimensional of oneness. There are lots of dimensions, lots of layers, lots of things we can play with, lots of things we can understand, we can know, and angels are one of them. Guardian angels are one of the most beautiful things that we have. Sometimes they can be deceased loved ones that will come to us and we'll feel their presence. And I like to think of them as angels. It can be angels that are from different archetypes. It can be angels that are from different planets. It could be angels that entities, spirits, guides that are really assigned to us in this lifetime and that we want to build a relationship with. And I was going to say, oftentimes knowing their names or asking for their names can help us to just put some structure around the idea of them. Because at the end of the day, it is an energy and it's not always something we see, but sometimes we do see them. In fact, another story that I talk about in my book, Angels, Herpes, and Psychedelics, is when 5 angels appeared in my living room. I totally didn't expect it. I believed in angels, but I had never seen an angel. I'd never had an experience where an entity entered the room that I could remember. But honestly, I was always scared of it. So when they came to me, I wanted to ignore it. I wanted to deny it. I'm like, I must be hallucinating. I must be crazy. And then it was like, no, I know how I felt. And the message that they had for me was keep going. And that was it. That was the message. But it came with this shoosh through my whole body, this energy, this is like, whew, that gives me goosebumps to just even say it today. And I was just like, oh, I get it. You are here with me and you're encouraging me to keep going. It was after I'd left my husband. I was asking for a divorce. I'd come back to the marital property to take care of our dog because my soon-to-be ex was out of town. And I had this beautiful encounter. I denied it for a long time until I really just was like, no, I'm not going to deny the experience that I had. It was one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had, to just know that I'm not alone and that all of those angels are still elements of my multidimensional self. But it's so nice and so refreshing when we feel them and when we sense them, and that we can sense that feeling of just not being alone. And it brings just a glow and a wholeness in our heart. So I highly encourage you to work with your angels. There's lots of ways you can do it. I guess one that comes to mind is journaling. I'm just such a big fan of journaling and just writing a question like, who are you? Who are my guardian angels? And then most importantly, letting that pen just write. It's not hard at all, but I understand in the beginning it can feel a little bit hard because you're like, your mind wants to put on the paper what you think you should say, and that's not what this is. It's like, just let the pen write. Like whatever it is, even if it's gibberish, like in the beginning, it's just like, I don't even know what I'm saying. Do it because it starts to get you into the flow of the energy. The other thing you can do, which I also really love, and I recently did this and had a profound experience with my grandparents on my mother's side. I lit rose incense because I wanted to get some insights from my grandmother. And I knew she loved rose. And I felt called to light this incense. And when I did, because, incense is like just a nice little communication up into the other realms and dimensions that I want guidance. I want to speak to you. I want to pray for something for myself. And so I lit that incense and boom, unbelievably, they came in and they had all these things to say. And it was because I practiced so much at remote journaling, remote writing, that I could just, it just was coming through like craziness. Stuff that, the next day, even the next hour, I look at and I go, I couldn't have written that. Like, I wouldn't know that this is not something that's in my awareness. But now it is because I had that experience. So journaling is a great way, lighting some incense, being in a quiet space, sitting in nature. And, if you want and you feel really comfortable, just like closing your eyes and meditating and visualizing, I think that's also a great thing to do, to bring in some details about Some of your guardian angels, maybe they'll show you the boots that they're wearing, or the clothes that they have on, or the color of their hair, or something about their facial features. Or there's lots of different ways that our guardian angels will communicate with us and show us that they are with us. All right. Super great topic. I love it. Thank you for asking it. If anyone else has any additional thoughts or comments, please put them in the comments below. If you go to bethbell.me, you'll also get some really incredible insights in my book, Angels, Herpes, and Psychedelics. About angels, I tell all the stories and go into more detail than what I did here. So, all right, let's go on to the next question. My girlfriend, whom I loved more than any other, cheated on me with a friend of mine. I am devastated and I don't know how I can possibly move through this and love again. What's your advice? My first bit, and this is in the 5-step process of going from a broken or closed heart to a healed and whole heart, is you've got to feel. If you haven't allowed yourself to feel the depths and despair, I have a feeling that you have based on how you wrote the question. If you haven't felt it, you got to go there. You absolutely have to go there. And if it means that you go watch a sappy old movie that just like gets you crying, right? Sometimes it's just hard to cry. Like it's just hard to like get yourself to, be in that place of crying. Go to a movie, cry it out, feel it out, journal it out. Talk it out with yourself and your guides. The next thing, and this sometimes can be one of the hardest things, is really just accept that you are the creator of your life, not the victim. I know all too well, I have had so many heartbreaks, so many disappointments, deceit, disappointment, disrespect. These things create deep wounds of heartbreak. I've experienced them myself. It's so important that you remember that you asked on a soul level for these characters to come in and play these roles for you so that you can work through whatever the lesson is that you brought for this spiritual journey. Which means you also want to explore the deeper meaning of it, right? So you got to go deep into why would I call this in? Once you get past the whole concept of like, I called this in, like, are you kidding me? Then you can get into the deeper meaning of it. And you can really start to unravel some of the core issues, because I have a feeling that there's some patterns there. So that's the next step, is to really identify what are the patterns. Chances are someone else has done something similar to you or caused or created a similar emotion or feeling, either cheated on you or done something that made you feel that same energy of betrayal. So figure out what those are. And then ultimately in step 5, you're releasing the emotions that are attached to the storylines. You have to get rid of the storylines. You have to commit to not telling the story anymore and reframing the story into what it is that you do want, not what you don't want. And I'm not saying you jump to this right away. This, step 5 is you've got to go through the other steps first in most cases to be able to reframe and really stop telling the story. All right. Hopefully that's helpful. Let me know in the chat if you would like more insights on this. Okay, let's go on to the next question. I've done a lot of spiritual work. I feel like I'm deeply immersed in self-love, and yet I haven't found a partner to be with. I'd really like to have one, but after years of waiting, I'm becoming disappointed and wondering what's wrong with me that I can't attract a divine complement. I'm going to guess and say that you probably have a pretty awesome, big, healed and whole heart that's just hanging out there waiting. And I love that, because I do feel from your question that you have done the work and that you do have that self-love and that you're ready for that divine complement to step in, share love together, not codependent. It's like that interdependency, not the dependent or the independent, but like that interdependent way of really being on each other's path together and championing each other. With that said, There's also the other person in the equation, and they may be still going through elements of their soul's ascension so that they can meet you here. So it may not have anything to do with you in that sense. It may be that your partner is still doing their work to get to where they want to be and where you guys on a soul level have planned to be before you meet. So don't get too hard on yourself. I think also when you're out and about, keep your heart and your eyes open to seeing, make eye contact maybe a little bit more than you normally do, appropriately. I'm not saying like stare somebody down. I'm just saying, when you see someone and you feel their aura from afar, as you're getting closer, don't be afraid to make eye contact and smile, because that invites an opening for magic to happen. Don't go out thinking, is that my guy? Is that my woman? If you're doing that, then you're not quite in the probably the most ascended place of the whole heart, because you're still looking for something outside of you, right? And self-love is all about knowing that everything is within and that I'm here to share it with someone else, and that we're asking for someone that can help champion our mission and we can help champion their mission. And that's the beautiful place of divine compliments. And so be patient. Be patient. That's the words that come to me, is it's coming. Keep your eyes open, keep your heart open, and make eye contact even when it feels a little bit uncomfortable, but don't obviously go like into the uncomfortable zone that's not appropriate. All right. Thank you for that question. That was beautiful. If you have any thoughts, questions, comments, please put them in the chat. I'd love to hear them. And let me quick check the chat. All right, let's go on to the next question. My boyfriend and I are talking about kids to see if we're aligned. I'm not sure, but I don't think I want them. He says that he wants what I want. Shouldn't he have an opinion, or should I feel blessed that he's willing to flex to my desires? Absolutely, he should have an opinion. If this man does not have an opinion, I would say, I would seriously consider getting out of the relationship. Because to me, it screams codependency all over the place. And that is not what you want in your man. You do not want a man who wants to do anything that you want to do. You want a man that's got his own thoughts, his own opinions, his own. Yes, of course we compromise and we flex. I'm not saying that. But you want a man who knows what he wants, like he knows, what he's going for in life. And either he wants kids or he doesn't. And if he's wobbling on this because he wants to like give you the right answer that fits with you, then he doesn't know who he is and he doesn't know what he wants. And that is not the kind of man that you want. I know it's kind of tough love, but I would seriously take a look at whether or not this person is for you. Hey, look, maybe you are also very wobbly. So there's that too, right? And maybe that same wound is what's keeping you both together. But you want your man to know what he wants. You want him to be able to compromise, and you need to compromise, but you got to know what you want and he's got to know what he wants. And so, yeah, as I think about it, you're kind of wobbling in the question there about you're not sure what you want either, but figure out what you want and then move the relationship forward. But do your work first. Don't think it's magically just going to like happen. And yeah, I mean, lots of magic can happen, but we're still called to do the work that we set ourselves up for in this lifetime. So please do the work. And then your relationship, if it's him or someone else, will be super beautiful and super interdependent. All right, let's go on to the next question. Got hair in my eyes. Okay, next question. You mentioned 4 different states of the heart on your website. What are they, and how can I find out which state I'm in and if there's anything I need to do to shift. Yeah, the 4 states of the heart, and there's lots of nuances and lots of gray area probably in between where people are, is a closed or blocked heart. That's someone who is just, the chains are on and they're not going to truly fully love again because their pain is so significant that they just can't move through it. The next is the broken heart. And this can be a long time, but oftentimes there's the acute period where someone has done something that shattered your heart, broke your heart, made you feel terrible, made you feel vulnerable, and then just, went for the jugular and ripped the heart out. So that's the broken heart. I think everybody here is probably familiar with a broken heart. If not, interesting. Hang on, because life is all about broken hearts so that we can understand and experience life from a whole heart perspective. And a lot of times that takes really having a broken heart. Okay, let's see. We've got some comments coming in. I want to just acknowledge that. Hang on. I can't get to it. Sorry. The light's shining in. I'm getting to it. Okay, this one I'm going to come back to. Thank you. I'm going to come back to it about kids. So I'm going to stick on the 4 different hearts. So, and then I'll come back to this one. The third is the healing heart, right? That's where you kind of come out of the broken heart, hopefully, and you're moving more into that like healing heart space where you're doing the work. You're no longer, you might be crying every day, but you're no longer in the absolute dire broken heart state. You're like, I want to move through this, and I want to heal this, and I want to get the lessons that I set myself up to learn in this lifetime because of this situation. So it could be a romantic love. It could be a childhood heartbreak. It could be a friendship betrayal. Anything that's around disappointment, deceit, all of these really can cause a broken heart. So we don't have to just keep it in the romantic realm. All right. And then the 4th is the whole heart. And that's really where we understand that love is within us and that everyone else is a reflection of our own love. And that the sooner we understand that they are there just helping us to learn more about ourselves and to self-actualize, self-realize, to know who we really are, then everything is love. And we can shine our light brightly, and we can just be in the world and not have to jostle with these ideas of relationships from a love perspective. Are they going to give me love? Are they going to take my love? No. So let's all get to that whole heart. Let's get to that self-realization point where we can use discernment with our open hearts, but that we can shine our hearts and our light brightly out into the world and help others to feel that higher level of vibration that we're all here to experience, that bliss on earth, that heaven on earth. That is the whole heart. And we can be in a whole heart and we can drop into our broken heart. So it's a cycle. It's not always a linear thing, right? We can jump around to different spaces and places. You can have a broken heart. You can jump into a healing heart and you can go back to that broken heart. I hope not. But that oftentimes is what happens. You can get the 5 steps to healing a broken heart on my website. So I look forward to having you there. Sign up, bethbell.me. You can do your state of the heart assessment. It's coming soon. And you will be able to get something very unique to you as to where you are in the state of the heart. All right, let's go back to this question here that we've got coming in live. It's about kids. I did not have strong opinions. I never just wanted to have kids, but I was open to discuss the possibility of my partner wanting to have kids. I think sometimes we don't have strong opinions on certain things. I thank you for that. I really appreciate I really appreciate that comment, because I think that maybe one of the things that I missed in my response is, and you're bringing this forward for me to clarify, is everything needs to align, right? The relationship needs to align. Who we're with, what our career aspirations are, what our life stage is. Like, there's lots of variables. So I totally get that there's times where we go, I don't know if I want children or not. But I guess where that question was coming from was a bit of a wobble. And I don't think we want to be in a wobble when we're talking about bringing babes onto the planet. We can be. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying that when you're really clear on what it is that you want, and your partner's really clear, and the love that you share together is really clear, because I got from that last question that there was a lot of things that are just uncertain in the relationship. So that's why I came down a little bit, on like, you got to know. And I agree with you too. So thank you for that sometimes you don't know, but you don't want to just do something because the other person wants it, right? So you want to be able to really have that wholeness within yourself, to have that clarity. And if you don't have the clarity, say, I don't have the clarity, and you wait it out. Not that you're like, oh, I'll just do what you want to do. All right. Thank you for that. I think that was a great comment, and hopefully that added a little bit more clarity to that kid question. Okay, let's go on to the next question. I've been broken up with my partner of 3 years for about 12 months. Although I can't seem to move through the thoughts and emotions and move on. It's driving me batty, and I really need to move on from this. Any tips? Okay, so yeah, 3 years is a significant amount of time, right, that you were in, and you've been broken up for 12 months, which is also a reasonable amount of time. But sometimes it takes a while for that heart to heal. So I appreciate that you're wanting to move on. And I think that you're right at that precipice of doing it. There's probably just a few more things within you that you want to clean up. Now, with the 5 steps of healing your heart process, one of them is to reframe the storylines, to stop, to release the storylines, which means stopping in a sense. But oftentimes I get it. We can't stop it unless we've done the emotional work deep within to release it. Because otherwise it feels like, this circuitous loop of thoughts that keep coming and coming and coming. And that's where we have to really take the reins in and say, okay, I'm going to change whatever it is, patterns in my life, routines in my life, change the playlist of songs that I listen to that keep me engaged in memories and feelings from my previous relationship. Sometimes it's restaurants you go to. It can be things and objects in your house that you need to clear out. You can still have them as sacred things, but it's not something that you want to have, whether it's a picture or maybe it's something that they gave you and, something special, a crystal or something. Unless you've transmuted the energy around what that symbol represents for you, you're going to continue to bring in the energy of that person, and you're going to constantly be in the healing process, healing, which is beautiful. But I heard you say you want to get beyond just being in the loop of healing, because you want to get to the wholeness, and you want to get to a place where you can attract someone else, that you've elevated yourself in a sense on a spiritual level, that you have transcended the lessons that relationship brought to you. Right? So that's so important. We want to get the lessons because we don't want to repeat them. Who wants to repeat the same lessons? No, icky. It's no fun. I did it a million times. I do it all the time. And yeah, it takes time sometimes to get through some of these really, really karmic entanglements and lessons that we've set ourselves up for. So I know all too well what that feels like. All right. I'd love to hear from you in the comments if there's anything else that you'd like to talk about in regards to that healing heart and the healing process. All right. The next question. And I see in the comments, you're welcome. Yes, thank you. Okay. Did I just answer this? Yes, I did. Okay. You mentioned 4 different states of the heart on your website. What are they? And how can I find out which state I'm in and if there's anything I need to do to shift? Didn't I just answer that one? I think I did. Anyone on live, tell me that if I did. I think I did. I think I'm going to go on to the next one. Let's see. Okay. Do you believe in aliens? Are they on the planet now? Do you think they are here to hurt or help us? Both and all. Yes, they're here on the planet with us right now. Many of us are aliens. We come from starseed families and we have missions, and we're here to raise the vibration on Earth. We're here to transcend. We're here to ascend humanity. Everyone has free will. Everyone has a choice. And aliens are absolutely here to help us. But there's some aliens that are absolutely here to confuse and cause chaos and create darkness and all of these different things. But without the dark and the light, the dynamic would not be what it is here on planet Earth. I mean, we have to honor the light and the dark. Maybe honor isn't the right word, but acknowledge, understand. And when we're bringing the darkness up, which is what's happening right now, and we're shining the light on it, we have this beautiful opportunity to take that lower vibrational energy of that darkness and that stuff and bring it up and throw it out and transmute it into light-filled love, to where we are loving our brothers and sisters as opposed to separating ourselves from them, right? So it's all about this oneness, unity, and separation and chaos and destruction. So you choose. It's a beautiful time. You can choose which camp you're going to move to and be in and stay in and ascend to or dive into. And so the aliens are definitely here to help with this. We have so many people that are obviously aliens and obviously channeling from their home planets and from other dimensions. And again, we can always go back to the overarching concept of the ultimate reality is oneness. So again, these are multi-dimensional aspects of ourself that we can be in touch with. Or we can just choose to just be human and just be very, 3D on this earth plane and this vibrational level. So aliens are alive and well with us, and it's fun. I wouldn't necessarily recommend you get really distracted by it. But if it helps you in your ascension awakening journey, absolutely dive in, learn more. It's super fun and super fascinating. But the ultimate reality is oneness. All right, let's go on to the next question. And I think we're almost down to the wire here. Okay. I'm thinking about doing a psychedelic journey. What medicine do you think would be best for me to overcome childhood trauma? Okay, I've answered this question many times before, I think, and my answer will always be the same, that it is so particular to you, and only you can know which one is right for you. There are so many beautiful plants out there. There is so many beautiful psychedelics that can really help you break through a lot of limiting beliefs, a lot of trauma, and really help catapult you on your awakening healing journey. Now, with that said, set and setting and shaman are so important, just as important as the spiritual medicine of which you choose to partake in. I talk about this in my psychedelic resource guide, the psychedelic resource guide on bethbell.me. I put in there everything that is helpful to know prior to signing up for a ceremony. But I can't say enough that setting, and server is so important. So please heed that call, because a lot happens in these journeys, and you want to set yourself up for a catapulting event for ascension, as opposed to having to deal with some of the other stuff and the funny business that happens. But look, it's your journey. And if that's what you're going to set yourself up for, is to deal with the funny business, that's okay too, right? It's not about placing any judgment on any journey. It's just that if you're asking me what's the best one to go on, I would say only you know, and you'll know specifically when it happens. So don't use your mind like, oh, I have to decide. No, and in that resource guide, I give you so many websites to go to learn about all the different ones from a scientific standpoint. You'll get everything you need to know. But most importantly, don't come at this just from the mind, like, oh, that makes sense. No, come at it from the heart as well. What do I feel about that? Like, ooh, what do I feel about that medicine? What do I feel about ayahuasca when I read about it? Oh, no. Okay, well then that is not your spiritual medicine to start with. And then once you get a calling, I mean, I really have experienced Aya's calling to me when the time came for me to partake. And so I would hope for all of you that you also heed that call when the grandmother, which is also calls you. So that's a really important thing. And that when you do get that calling, it took me a year after I knew that I was called to do ayahuasca. It took me a year before I found the right setting and shaman. And I was so glad that I waited. And I had so many opportunities that came my way, like so many people that said, oh, there's an Aya journey here, there. But I just knew when I knew who that was. And it was because it came from here. It didn't come from here. It wasn't about logic. I'm not saying don't use logic. That comes into play too. But what's in here and how you feel is really the most important thing. All right. Thank you so much for all the questions you've submitted. I just so appreciate it. I love answering them. And please go to bethbell.me. There's so many resources, so many things there. We're going to have a mentor membership program to sign up for. There's Awakening and Healing Handbook. There's my book, The Angels, Herpes, and Psychedelics. There's so many great do-it-yourself on the spiritual ascension journey, but there's also hand-holding and really great VIP services that you can jump into. So I look forward to getting to know you more. You can take the State of the Heart assessment coming soon, and we will do this together. We're all in this together. So please ask the questions. If you have the question, chances are many other people do. They just don't have the bravery to ask it. So please don't hesitate. Or ask a question for your friend. It doesn't always have to be your question. Everything always remains anonymous. I won't say your name. So please write the question in the comments. Go to bethbell.me. You can go to Instagram at Queen Blissby, and also onto Facebook at Bethbell Live to write me a private message if you feel like that's more appropriate to ask your question. So again, thank you so much for being with me this week. I look forward to seeing you next week at 11:11 on Sundays Pacific time.